I want to cover BrentOzar. He even followed me on Twitch. It was like quite shocked, you know. I mentioned him and then was quite honored because he's the real deal. And we'll shut down the music for now because we will go over the main lecture content and we will have a look on BrentOzar. I do hope I pronounce that correct. He is, and I hope I get the signal. I will mute it down.
A consultant who makes Microsoft SQL Server go faster. I've worked with all kinds of companies you've heard of: Google, Stack Overflow, TaxSlayer, Maverick Helicopters was a fun one. And in my spare time, when I'm not doing my day job, then I go off and stream while I write blog posts, build presentations, work on my demo codes. I live code on the first responder kit, and I just answer your questions. I don't usually schedule my streams ahead of time. It's just whenever I've got time. So give me a follow, and then that way you'll get alerted whenever I go live. When I'm not live, like right now, you can go watch videos. I leave my past couple of months live streams up there, so I'll catch you around.
Man, the jingle. What he's doing, you already said it. Once again, it's a tech guy, and I know what you might think now. Yeah, the tech guys, they just figured everything out and they just know their stuff. Later, and I wrote it down in my notes. We will talk about the topic sphere, so to speak, and he's not the reg or the normal tech guy who's programming, which is like the other default in the web dev and DevOps and whatnot technical environment. Because he's pretty much talking as he would have a one-on-one session. And that's why I totally believe that whole consultant thing. Sometimes people say, you know, I'm a consultant. And what do you do? Yeah, I consult, you know. But with him, it's pretty nice to see the format. And the basic format is an AMA. And that means an Ask Me Anything. I found on Twitch, at least, that seems to be his default format. And that's one thing I try to embrace for other professors and lecturers as well. Since he has a day job, he can choose when to stream. That makes it obviously a little bit different than lectures, because imagine your lecturer would say, you know, I don't have regular lectures, but just come by. That projection obviously doesn't work for the university schedule. But at the same time, the Ask Me Anything, and we will have a look on that, where it originally comes from in a minute, means that he's taking question on the fly. Usually, a Q&A works like that you have to like prepare the questions before, and then some sort of team is citing them and is kind of like organizing them. My understanding is that he's doing that on the fly, and what's quite interesting, he is making the Ask Me Anything about the subject usually, and that's what I wanted to show you. And Ask Me Anything, most prominently on Reddit, it works very much on the character or biography or about some sort of drama. Today, I, 23, male, I'm 1 year clean of porn, alcohol, tobacco, and self-harm. AMA, Ask Me Anything. Usually it is about a very specific biography, like change of heart, so to speak. Sometimes it's just certainly funny. I'm currently in the ER, or no, that's not so funny. I'm currently in the ER because I yawned this morning and dislocated my jaw, AMA. And people really dig that. The guy who broke his jaw by yawning, 19 comments, 143 on the sobriety guy. My point is, an AMA is usually very much about ask me anything about the history, about some sort of drama, some sort of accident that happened. And he does that about Microsoft SQL servers. And usually the database lectures are not like the fun ones. I took one because I had to in my undergrad studies, but he's doing it, and he's doing it quite well. Let's dive into it. So classic, starting soon, and look at that Radiocam. The Radiocam is, I think it's San Diego. I'm not sure. He was wearing a San Diego shirt. That's another big thing I try to promote, although I can't do it myself, using a dedicated office space. I'm not sure if the scene we're looking at right now is his living room. Otherwise, it would be like a penthouse and whatnot, which would be totally awesome, because most streams are dislocated from the real world. They usually cannot afford or don't want to show where they live, which I totally get. But he's using that as a natural backdrop, if you will. And let's dive into it for a second, not on a subject base, but only to hear how the question, the rate of question dropping, so to speak, I found quite high. And he's just answering that out of the battery. It really amazes me when I saw that first.
I do, as a matter of fact. I have entire classes full of them, and, whoopsie, it just so happens that that's this week's sponsor. This week's sponsor is my own Black Friday sale. I know, that's my sleazy, spammy voice.
What metrics to capture when doing a performance comparison. If I'm doing a comparison for like CPU, disk, memory for restore and check DB. What I like to do is I like to look at your production server, the one that you're replacing. Look at the...
I'm supposed to understand everything you just said, but I don't. You see the comments below. That's what's coming in on real time. And I can only guess, but the bigger question right here seems to be then some sort of either a suggestion box or some sort of collection. But I don't think it's real time. I think it's near time, which is once again amazing. Usually they just read out 4 or 5 questions. What I've seen in the live streams by him, like 4 or 5 questions in those 2 or 3 or 4 minutes, and it's nothing it's nothing trivial. You know, he's not doing an AMA how to become better at programming, which would be a hard question anyway. But this particular guy was asking something about a virtual machine size comparison and a related CPU performance whatsoever. So it's not trivial from a subject-based approach, because sometimes I have the feeling or the impression that streaming is always related with something rather shallow. Something you just game and you just talk. Besides, you just draw, which is like, come on, that's like a really important and really hard skill. It's not just drawing or just talking. But once again, he is talking about something, and what I then think is quite interesting, we can talk about tangible and intangible topics. A database, he could show you or us a database query, something that would work quite good, just typing it and showing it to us, and then seeing the respective result from that particular database. But he's talking about it, and although he could show you an intangible lesson, he decides to rather speak his experience for itself. And once again, maybe I'm like worshipping here too much, but I haven't seen that in lectures. Although the slides are super prepared beforehand, what I've seen is that's the concept, and now you go home and you try it yourself and you have questions. send me an email, and a week later we do that, maybe at the end of class. This is your time, my guys. This is, and that's what I find super interesting. And the expertise you get like for free. Yeah. We will dive into the different aspects because there's like a green screen. We already talked about his backdrop. As you can see, he's standing, so he seems to have a standing desk, which is nothing usual, I would say. Most people don't; they just have to sit. I'm convinced he has to sit all day. I'm not sure. He's drinking coffee, which is a good thing. This is like my personal approach to have like step by step the deductive way. I think when we have to decide is what he's doing, is that rather a lecture or a dialogue or chat? And I think we can strongly agree that this would be a lecture, a dialogue or chat approach. I haven't seen one slide from this guy, and I don't even know how he's doing it. My assumption is that he knows his technicalities and his domain knowledge that good that he's projecting and translating on the fly, which is a very impressive task. But the whole AMA approach and the whole ask me anything, I will answer you, and from there conversation is growing. That whole thing is relies on the chat and dialogue approach, because otherwise it wouldn't ask me. Yeah. Is it educational or entertainment? I would rather say it's educational, because people do have like real, I don't want to say problems, but technical sorry, some really technical questions, and let's hear some more, because I think the next one is quite hard as well.
So Microsoft, when they brought out XML processing inside SQL Server, it kind of felt like they were checking a box, as in, people like XML, we need to handle XML. Okay, now we handle XML. But they haven't really invested anything in performance tuning it. And we saw the same thing with JSON data, Ruby, or not Ruby, R, Python, Java in the database. They're frantically checking boxes, but not necessarily going back and giving you performance tuning tools. Or
okay, you see the level of detail, I think is quite impressive. At the same time, we saw a little bit more of his audio setup, which I would like to go into depth now. He's using a wireless Sennheiser microphone. I know that so specifically because on his channel site, he's specifically saying how he is streaming. This is very common among gamers, and most of Twitch streamers are gaming related. And you can see that he pointed that out quite rigorously. He uses different cameras. We will see those cameras in a bit, because he's using them as transmission, or I still call it Radiocam, what I do with a webcam. And he's using that for the breaks, for the intermission, so to speak. And he has some heavy gear, I would say. So this is not your, oh yeah, let's try streaming, and if it's nothing for me, I can still shoot some photos in my vacation. Vacation is canceled in 2020, but here's two big cameras, twice the same, so to speak, which is some heavy lifting. Even that Sigma lens is quite, I think he either had that before or he specifically bought it. With that kind of follower count, I rather believe that he grew into it. Brent, if you hear that, let me know how did you evolve to those two Sony lenses, because it's a nice setup, I have to say. in terms of audio, he can use that wireless headset so easily. And that's why I wrote down degree of freedom. The degree of freedom is the biggest and the best with a wireless microphone. The problem is wireless and good doesn't come in hand with cheap. So to have a good and a wireless one, you have to pay. And that's why I can only congratulate him to that Sennheiser AVX set. I hear great things about it. Yeah, he's using that around the ear. So I think overall it makes sense because he has some transmissions. We will see that. Let's dive into it. So he's answering more and more questions. Here we see the green screen. Hang on. I mean, you can obviously already see the green screen. We just saw it in the gear list. He's using an Elgato green screen, which is like the most uncommon roll up or roll down green screen, but it's quite expensive as well. And I think right now it's sold out almost everywhere. For a university approach, or if like your faculty or your team or your school wants to have a green screen, don't buy it. Don't just buy almost anything that has a good structure of green. Mount it on a wall, and there you go. You have your dedicated green screen area. Mobile and green screen doesn't come good together because you have to light out your situation, and that's why I think that's like the reason or the reasoning he mounted that specifically on the wall, and then you could like a green screen doesn't go onto journeys. Would be my. Where is it? Okay, maybe not. It showed up in your preview. Hey, seriously, the level of chat interactions is like he's answering questions and then the chat is asking more on that question or on the follow-up or on something unrelated, and he's just managing that on the way. But that's the main reason, I think, why we see him and the questions. If you would add code or a databank query on it or anything else, I think the cognitive load of all of us, I mean, his cognitive load must be going through the roof. And that's might be another reason why he's taking the transmissions. I mean, I promise you intermissions quite often by now, but he hasn't done one yet. I really want to see the green screen, but that doesn't show up yet. Okay, here's a be right back. Okay, 3 minutes. That's quite nice. He's showing how long he's on a break. For instance, I need that myself as well. He's using the Radiocam or the penthouse cam. You know, at this point, I think you either have a pet cam or a penthouse cam. The questions and the comments are still rolling into it, so the chat is seeing each other. He's streaming on Twitch and YouTube at the same time. I think that works with Restreaming.io, which for him as an independent lecturer makes a lot of sense. You see his green screen setup is somewhat mobile because he has freestanding lights. He's using a big LED ring. That's this one. And this doesn't come cheap as well. But overall, I think this is a very legit way to have a bio break for himself. And I think by content or by let's breathe everyone, that makes sense as well. And then he's showing when he's coming back. So you know, in real classes, you would do that anyway. You say, okay, now it's like quarter past. We meet again at whatever. And the same way is happening here, but instead of pushing and saying you have to be back in 15 minutes, he's saying like, okay, you can pull in 2 minutes or in 5 minutes. I'm back, and I'm grateful if you're back again. And I think his audience is getting used to that. So yeah, I need the countdown as well. Like, and then you make a rhythm out of it, so to speak. Maybe I can glimpse some more. Usually you have I just have to look at it and to see if I can find anything. So I saw an Apple station. I think I saw is that a Mac? Yeah, so it's an Apple workstation, but it's unknown if he's actually using that. They got a green screen and a very clean and nice setup. Not too much of a reverb or echoing. Okay, so maybe we can already cross some of our categories. Audio hardware. He's using very good dedicated audio hardware, which fits his degree of freedom, running around, doing bio breaks, switching between scenes. Yeah, special effects, none. I haven't seen too many, like some special effects you will see at the trade fair or fair show. Content. He doesn't have students. The students he has is, or at least my understanding, he's not teaching one particular course, Microsoft SQL 101. He has independent students, so to speak. And obviously, as a free agent, he has courses and consulting and books. The experience level, I would say, is high. I understood most of the terms, but I think that on one level, the students are coming to him if they need experience or advice from the master, which is like, it's a very different thing if you say, okay, here's everything you have to know, come back, or next week I will check if you do. And he's saying, okay, I have this offer and you pick what you need. And if you have a heap table data storage problem, we can do that. And if you need a CPU benchmark on an XML file, we can do that. And once again, I think it requires a lot of mastery from his side. And he's doing the heavy lifting, which is, once again, quite astonishing. I really would, I think later I will write him a DM to find out like how and why. Difficulty, once again, I think it's rather high, but maybe that's my lack of the deeper knowledge of databases. By just the AMA format is quite specific. People do have the urge to tell or to ask very specific, very deep down, drill down questions. So I think difficulty is quite high. Video, yeah, green screen, but not only green screen. Last time I said, let's don't use only a green screen, because a green screen is sadly it looks nice, okay, and we know it from the weatherman and weather shows, but it's killing your context. It's killing your environment, your workspace. And I think the reason, because he has a dedicated office space or a dedicated room, he has the luxury to combine those two. And he's either really deep in the cyberspace and within, I couldn't get a scene, maybe we check the YouTube channel. Okay, drop off. Internet signal is fluctuating again. My health parameters are popping up. Fingers crossed. and mixing those worlds. He's either deep down in the Matrix virtuality mode, standing in the screen, or you can basically see what he's seeing outside the window, which I think it's like, that's an amazing idea. Let's do that. Hardware wise, not 2, 3 different cameras, heavy lifting. I think one would suffice, but then you don't have Radiocam, and then step by step you buy and you extend that. A natural backdrop. he has literally the whole city behind his back. So it's a backdrop which would cost you a lot of money. And in that case, obviously, I think he's paying the rent. So if you have that nice of a view, use that as a backdrop. So I'm using a cheap LED because it's the only thing I have. But if you have the whole city behind you, use that as a backdrop. Sure. What else? Style character. I think by just looking at the scene so far, it's. Oh, here we see an alert. Okay, so he has subscribers alert, which is nice. By his style and what I've seen so far, I think he's quite easygoing and down to earth, and this is a common trait so far among streamers and gamers. Sometimes you have the one in terms of styles that is saying nothing, but he's playing really good. So you want to continue how he shreds through enemies. Then you have the very talkative who's like not playing too good because he or she's talking too much. But they're just telling very funny and entertaining stuff. Then you have some people who should wear some more clothes. So that's a different category. You have the one who are playing with friends. They're not too good as well, but quite entertaining. But what I see, having a look on like almost a dozen, and I will dive into that more. What I've seen so far from educators is that more like the basic characteristic would be like described as easygoing, down to earth, open-minded. Yeah, come after class, we will figure it out attitude. So it's the kind of. I think it's a kind of character you think like, man, if that would be my teacher in high school, if that would be my university teacher, if that would be my professor, and that's quite common so far. Maybe there are better words to describe it, but that, let's figure it out. I can show you, sure thing, down to earth, I think that's a common trait among the characteristics. Obviously some streamers are rather quirky and really outgoing and humorous in their own way, like when I covered David Schiffman, Daniel Schiffman, sorry. But once again, he is super. I don't want to compare them directly, but most of them accumulated high volume and a high level of domain knowledge and still kept that, okay, let me show you, it's possible, here's how and here's why. And that combination is really powerful. Okay, let's continue on the list. And once again, I don't want to do that as a checklist, but it helps to compare the features of educational streaming, not the style or the professor by itself or the lecturer, but how different people could find access to that. And if you see that right now, you don't have to be that super quirky, humorous, funny professor or lecturer, but I think it helps that it helps the viewer as well. If the lecturer has that, we will figure it out, and if there's something that's missing, let me know. It's the online teaching style is more and more like, let's do that together. Obviously, the streamer or the lecturer, professor is leading the lesson, but the content and the way and the subject they're talking about, he is led by the AMA Ask Me Anything session. And at the same time, he decides how much depth and time he's spending on each and every question. And he's doing that for 90 minutes, give or take. Some of the recordings go back to 2 hours. And that combination is quite interesting. And for new educational streamers, I think it helps that not everything has to come from the teacher or the lecturer. Some things are designed by the community, by your learners, by your students, and some just grow naturally, so to speak. Does he have material, homework, or assessment? I haven't seen any material or homework or assessment relation. Sometimes, and it's quite often in educational streams, that they say, okay, here we discuss task 2 or 3 today, and you find that in the Moodle system or in OLAT or on the blackboard under the chapter, whatever. Since I categorized him as an independent agent, an independent lecturer agent, and he's obviously enjoying that, it makes sense that he's not referring to a Moodle or a learning management system. I'm pretty sure he has a repository or a GitHub or some sort of coding basis. But once again, the students or the learners he is caring off, like he's obviously some sort of, come on kid, I show you the way, and he's the Mr. Miyagi in the SQL maybe. I don't know enough about SQL to say that, but in terms of the hierarchy level maybe. So it makes sense that he's not giving dedicated assessments. I think it makes sense that he's saying, okay, if you want to check out, let's check out the repo, which we could do as well. Yeah, there's the GitHub repo and some other sites. So yeah, these it's just awesome to see people who know what they're doing. It's yeah, different tags, different branches. Yeah, makes totally sense. He has a SQL Server First Responder Kit, and at the GitHub repo, see me live coding SQL Server Management Studio or Azure Data Studio. Yeah. And he says, until most streamers have a pretty fluid schedule, which makes sense because I think that's the fun part of the day. Some more about his gear. So okay, my guess, it is an Apple Mac Pro, 16 cores, 96 gigabytes of RAM. Okay, good people. I like RAM. I can tell you, I like my RAM like high. Super high, super great, huge. I only have 32 gigabytes, only with the option to extend to 64. My dear BrentOzar, why do you have 96 gigabytes of RAM? Good people, this is not normal. Call your RAM support hotline if you have the urge to buy 90, even like 96. Like that's an odd number. If I count my binary correct. Obviously he's using a virtual machine. Yeah, he has a 4K monitor. Good to know. Once again, not normal. But good. Yeah, good for him. Totally. But in all seriousness, the whole corresponding setup is I can only describe it as heavy lifting or because I don't want to say expensive to to scare people off, but it is, and it does its job. I think that's suffice to say. All right. Is the interior rather studio natural? It's quite hard to say because maybe we can jump. Let me check the YouTube account because we can save office hours. Oh yeah, it's pretty much the same, but I can show you some. Okay. Where's a good scene? Hang on. There's the. Oh, finally I got. Oh, this is Twitch does a good thing on everything that's live streaming related, but YouTube is just the better video on demand platform. It just is like that. The green screen looks pretty sharp, giving what he has there. The DSLR is, or the dedicated camera is always way better to render out the green. Not too many artifacts. Yes, looking nice. But in all seriousness, looks great. And that's what I mean. He's either like super virtually sitting in front or right on top of a Google search, explaining the details, literally pointing at the details, or he is standing in front of his office / dedicated office space. I think it's a company room or his company room. So yeah, it's my point is I cannot tell you. Like usually it's quite clear usually. Either you are in a studio space where nothing looks human because it's like a TV studio, or big YouTubers have studios as well. I mean, my background, I do not change that if the camera is off. So I would rather consider that natural. But he has both. So I rather, if I have to give like a binary answer, I'd rather go with like studio-like because it's rather an office. But it's the first educational streamer I see, which I cannot like make a distinctive cross. Accessories props, not too much until now. We have seen some alerts, okay, which is like, I don't want to say obvious, but Twitch following alerts are like the most standard thing. At the same time, he has ring light. I just love that view, you know. But nothing too fancy on the alert audio tuning special effects side, which I think it fits that corporate theme. You know, he's streaming out of his office or his corporate room. He has a penthouse view, a nice white leather chair. The cleanness and slick design is, you know, if he would have a Boeing alarm or something, some strange toy sounds, it wouldn't fit. So I think that's totally nice that he's like focusing on the chat alerts, because you see the right side is changing on a continuous space. Now we got a follower alarm. So up there, you always see the question he's answering right now. And then step by step, the chat is popping in. One thing I want to say about the chat, when I was, by now I have quite a good feeling of the ratio. Like you can obviously count the chat interactions, and you see the timestamps. There's way over 3K follower, which is a lot for an educational streamer. And what I see is a very high interaction rate. I can only congratulate you to that, BrentOzar. Having like 454 views on a 3-day-old stream, once again, in the educational sphere. On that detail and on that level of domain knowledge, with questions each and every 2 or 3 minutes, which fits that he needs like a few minutes to answer your question. That's a very high engagement rate, and maybe you can, maybe his Twitch analytics are showing that as well, because it just fits my argument that online education doesn't have to be what I do usually, just talking into the microphone, taking some chats here and there, which is totally fine. But his entire stream is based on that interaction. And when I look in my timeline or in some comments or some videos, digital education is often described and characterized as this one-way street of communication, and that way of just delivering, of just putting up some slides, and he's totally demystifying that, both on an academic way, if you will, because it is what it is, and he could totally teach at universities, maybe he even does, and at the same way with the kind of delivery, because it's obviously easier to tell some jokes or being entertaining is not easy by default, but being entertaining and educational at the same time while keeping the social interaction high, that's a big burden, and he's delivering. So I think interaction community chats, I haven't seen the bot he's using, that I can tell you. The bot he's using, because he's streaming to Twitch and to YouTube at the same time. The comments on YouTube are collected, and that's why you sometimes, hang on, maybe you can grab one of that. Sometimes you see in the icon right there, over on YouTube or something like that, where he's over here. I'm not too sure if you can see that. I will make it a widescreen. Right here over on YouTube, and then you see the username, and that is, I think, a bot. What is that? 1 hour 7 1-7. Is that the same bot SQL server? Yeah. I just want to give you like the very same. I think it's that. Hang on. Okay, so that's interesting. You see, okay, on that instance, you see that that kind of signal, what you see right here, is coming from YouTube. So my friend asks, is this username, and then over on YouTube, if we go to the very same timestamp in Twitch, we see that this is then displayed as in, oh, it's YouTube once again. Okay, never mind. I'm pointing again to it because the whole, it's quite interesting to get that whole signal chain, and because that's what is, after like understanding what streaming is in general and how you can do it, you really think like, okay, but how do I get that signal and that mic to this? And then you tell people, yeah, and you can stream to both at the same time. And they're like, I can do what? So basically, I think he's using some some service like Restream.io, where he's sending one signal. The app is then authorized to rebroadcast that signal, and that's why you see a slight, or you see the same image, but depending on whether you're on YouTube or on Twitch, which I think for his use case is totally usable and totally and totally nice. Once again, my signal dropped hard. Okay, maybe we're back online. Really, I'm really sorry about the ups and downs of the upstream. I have to figure that out. I got the transcoding lottery. We will see. For his use case, I think it's totally, I would almost say advantageous. It makes sense that he has both, because if you have a class, you can direct them to that particular stream. You can say, okay, I will be on Twitch, or I will be on YouTube, or I will be on Blackboard, and then they follow you, so to speak, and they know how to and where to find you. If you do that on an open way, you obviously want to throw your net into that in almost every realm you want to be. But I think my point is, if you want to stream educational for a dedicated class, which is like my basic premise, then you won't need that restreaming signal chain restream. It's an extra mile you can do, but you don't have to. That's way too complicated explained. Yeah, restream is or rerouting the signal is a later task, not like something you have to cover in your first streams. I haven't seen super chats too much. Announcements are there, alerts are there. He has some. Yes, no pet, but penthouse. Good for you. No sidekicks, interview mode. He has one continuous dialogue with the crowd, which I praise that so often. But if you have ever been in a Zoom meeting or in a monologue, you know what I mean. And the level of interaction, amazing. I would really see some early footage of him, because you have to grow that audience, obviously, and I envy you. BrentOzar, I envy you. Co-moderations, I haven't seen them. I think if we scrub through the video, I think there's a Pretzel Rocks like background music, you know. I could activate background music. Shall I? Is that too loud? Let me know if that's too loud. I don't think so. And I think he's having that. No, it's pretty loud for me. He's having that in a way that it doesn't like hurt. And he's not showing the title of the music, which is totally fine. Other than that, I don't hear or see co-moderations. Yeah, some do. Some streamers do that, and I don't think it's necessary. Sometimes there's some sort of some sort of like bot command and more details, but nothing specific. Length 90 minutes plus minus. I think I do like the length of his channel and of the streams, because you can tell that the transmission really make a good pause and breaks and or the intermission or the transmission between the different pieces he's doing. Distribution channel, I already talked in length about that. Overall, the Ask Me Anything format is well showcased here because that is what he's doing in general. Office hours, ask me anything. Ask me anything. Ask me anything. Even like last month, you can go to the live coding and office hours 25 days ago. In there, it's nighttime. He's playing and changing with that a little bit, but overall, great format. Very expensive and nice setup. I think you just need 1/3 of that, like one camera, one microphone, and one light to start your personal class. But at the same time, it's great to see people leveraging what they have. And some people say, yeah, you need a dedicated streaming day, and you have to do this and that. And he's saying, oh no, I don't. I'm a grown up. I do what I want, which I envy as well in terms of that he has success with that, because once again, he's like a walking domain knowledge database, Mr. Miyagi. And I think like most educators can relate to that. Most educators, professors, or lecturers do have their topics in which they think, yeah, I can and I will deliver with very little preparation time, and that's what he's showcasing. And the dedicated office space. In most universities, and I said it quite often, you have the chance to occupy a room. It doesn't have to be a large room. It has to be a room with a certain depth. Like if the room is only like 2 or 3 meters wide, but 4 or 5 meters deep, that's your studio room. That's amazing. Do that. Yeah. So much for the stream analysis. I found him by coincidence, by the way, in terms of once again hang on, I can show you the TKF. Here we go. So the TKF, and over here there are a lot. Some of them I already covered. Some of them I want to cover in the future. But the important one is the join the Discord. And just somebody's posted, I think it was Psych Queen. She just posted, I found the channel. It's nice. So I'm sure BrentOzar is not affiliated with the TKF, but he should be, because it's a valuable source. And so much for that. We just learned that intermissions are valuable and good. So I will go into intermissions for, let's say, 5 minutes, coming back at 5 minutes before half, but that's way too complicated. 7:25. That's 10 minutes. So see you on then, and then I would like to talk about icebreakers in Zoom classes. I found like the different approaches, 6 to 8, depending on how you group them. See you in 10 minutes.